People ask me often why Africa seems to be so ripe for the gospel. They've got so many problems.
Africa is in a state of disequilibrium.
Problems like bribery,
corruption,
the cults,
injustices,
HIV, AIDS.
Another major problem is poverty.
The culture in Africa looks women, they're down, they look like children.
Tribal fights and wars.
One of the heartbreaks that we had was Rwanda. When Rwanda claimed to be 80% Christian, how can you have this genocide? And my response is simple. We haven't seen the house of God built up. We are about training and equipping people. We've been very blessed, I think, in the commitment of missionaries in years past.
Africa has come to life.
My community is quite evangelized.
So people are getting saved.
In Africa, on any given day, 18,000 people will receive Christ.
The gospel's here.
And they are getting saved.
What was missing was the second part of discipleship.
We have so many churches and they are not growing.
There is a great need.
Very often the growth in the lives of those people does not grow alongside the conversion.
The number one problem I would say is the lack of leaders.
There are many pastors who have not been able to go to Bible school.
For instance, Pastor Mark Kariuki. You know, here's a man who has a small church of 10,000 members, has a vision to grow it to 100,000, and do you know what his theological training is? None.
When I was a missions pastor, I asked, what is it the church in the West can best do to partner with churches in developing countries? And 7 out of 10 times, the answer was, help us train our leaders.
It helped me, the material for ICM.
There's another unique man that the Lord has brought him on our side.
Before my salvation, I was a Muslim.
This man was a sheikh.
I was a leader in Muslim community.
He went to Arabia for 5 years to train as a Muslim theologian.
For Muslim to become Christian is not possible because according to Islamic faith, if you change, the decision was to kill me. One day, he came by night. I was sleeping. At the window of my house, he dropped the grenade, but not explode. In morning, my child brought this grenade to her mother. And then my wife bring it to me. I said, "Aye."
God protected him.
It was a miracle from God.
This is a man that really wants to do things right. So he's training to learn the philosophy of ICM.
I have this heart to be not stay a simple Christian.
In a recent seminar conference in Nigeria, we challenged the 9,000 pastors and leaders there with the idea of taking the good news to the Muslim north of Nigeria and beyond. And we made it very clear that we wanted people to come forward who had committed to do that, who were willing to sell all their had, and within a year move to the north.
People prayed and they cried, making that decision because they felt God was calling them to go. And 600 people came forward to dedicate their lives and to move.
Many of those will face severe persecution. Some of those, if it hasn't already happened, will die for their faith. One of the stories that I'm so fond of sharing is about James and Mary Kamau. One of the things that God led them to do is to work among the refugees that are coming out of Rwanda and Burundi.
There is a big need.
There are 10 refugee camps.
It's like sheep came without their shepherds.
Housing as many as 700,000 refugees.
What we are doing here with the refugees was never part of ICM's vision.
One of the things ICM tries to do is to expand out into areas where we have these invitations.
It's a door that God has opened.
Even last night, Campus Crusade came with us.
We showed Jesus film.
And the largest gathering of people they've ever had in the history of Tanzania.
There was a crowd of about 30,000 people.
And 10,000 people that made
a commitment to follow Jesus.
Churches will come out of that.
It's incredible. Seeing such a large number of people commit to follow Christ is a challenge.
Theological training in a refugee camp seems a bit strange.
You are privileged to be a pastor.
In fact, it has been strange because no one's come here to do it.
You are privileged to be a church leader.
They've been here for 9 years.
You are privileged to take God's word and be His voice.
We're the first group that has come to help them be trained.
And we see training the leaders will equip them.
So what we're doing here is to find the leaders. I just heard today that there are 64 pastors that are learning Swahili just so they can go to the Swahili certificate program. We will be here. There will be Bible schools.
And so this is new, and I think God is just calling us to do things that are bigger than our own ideas.
One main hope for ICM is to have such centers in every country in Africa.
We need ICM to be planted all over Africa.
One of the great needs we have is for partners.
It's important for us to connect the church in the U.S. with the church in Africa. We know we need each other. We have financial resources in the U.S. that certainly we can provide.
The pastors are calling for ICM.
And they have spiritual resources here that we've seen.
ICM has been very, very helpful for women.
So if people are excited about wanting to provide what the church is asking for,
We've seen many women coming.
then that's what ICM believes in.
And when they go back, they make a difference in their churches.
God is doing something incredible in Africa.
It's not like International Christian Ministry is somehow spearheading this. God is allowing us to be part of what He's doing.
Consider coming and join us in this great opportunity and be a part of what God is doing in the continent.
I love this. I mean, everything else just fades.
I feel privileged that I can be part of what God is doing.
When I'm here, I'm at home.
I know that the church will grow big time.
It is exciting to partner with God
Very excited.
in what He's doing.
Very excited.
We can't stop at the tens or the hundreds or even the thousands. We've got to see the millions discipled